A first in 7 years and a visit loaded with significance. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines is in India. Defense, diplomacy and deterrence are on the agenda. Mr. President, welcome to India and thank you for joining us here.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm very, very happy to be here and be with you in India.
It's your first visit to the country as head of state. How's it going? How's it been so far?
It has been remarkably productive, actually, because the very openness and the willingness from both sides, for that matter, to really try to find areas of commonality, areas that we can develop in every aspect of a relationship between two states. And so that has made it easier for us in our discussions to actually find ways and see what can be done between two countries and how we should move forward. So yes, I must say it's been very, very productive.
In your view, do you think that this visit marks a reset from a historical friendship to a strategic alignment?
Well, maybe not a reset, but there may be a added impetus to working towards strengthening and deepening the relationship between India and the Philippines. And when I speak about strengthening and deepening the relationship, we have a solid people-to-people relationship going back centuries. But now we are talking about all kinds of we're talking about trade, we're talking about specific industries, sectors, both in the public sector and the private sector. And that is why I say it's been so productive, is because the time that we've spent here, we have discovered between ourselves, between businessmen here, your leaders, the Prime Minister, the cabinet ministers who have been helping us, we have found so many areas that hold so much potential and that really should be developed. Now, you know, that doesn't mean we will be achieving 100% hit rate, but if you manage half of the things that we're talking about, that is a very, very significant increase in terms of engagement, in terms of partnerships and alliances between our two countries.
It's good to see your optimism. What, according to you, is the biggest takeaway?
Well, first of all, the very biggest takeaway and the primary reason why I'm here is the strategic partnership that we have finalized and finalized and formalized with my visit here. And that immediately, by itself, immediately puts it up a notch, the relationship between the Philippines and India, because it provides a very, very wide-ranging, very strong and robust foundation for us to build on. And the strategic partnership covers because once you speak strategy, you say it's for strategic reasons. We do these things under the strategic partnership for strategic reasons. Pretty much everything applies, and that leaves the door open for us to look into anything that might be possible. And that is important because in this day and age, there have been, because of the changes in technology, the advancements in technology, the changes in our economic systems, there are now areas that did not exist before. Just the digital space, for example, where India is a leader. Just in the use of the digital space and the widening of the digital space, something that never really existed before, is something that we have to adjust to. But it is also something that offers a great deal of potential. AI is I was about to say down the road, mistake, it's here. AI is coming, but it's coming like gangbusters. So that's another area that just didn't exist, that we now have to deal with. But again, as we say in the East, problems can also be opportunity. And that's how we view it. And I think there's a great deal of opportunity there.
Yes, we say it in the Bhagavad Gita as well. The obstacle is the path.
Yes, exactly.
But this looks like a road with fewer obstacles now. The meetings. Tell us about your meeting with Prime Minister Modi and the equation that you share with him.
Well, he's a very impressive man. And I think we were able to cover so many subjects, we covered a great deal of ground, and not superficially either. We spoke in relatively much detail. Generally, at these very quick meetings, hour-long meetings, you don't get to talk about. You talk about a great many things, but you don't really get to the nitty-gritty of the problem and how it applies to your two countries. We managed to do that, and that's why I keep saying that it's been so productive. And to get a sense of where he would like to take India, and for him to get a sense of where I think the Philippines is headed, and to put that together and to see how that can work for the both of us, both for India and for the Philippines. And we made a great deal of progress in that respect. We have the work is nowhere near finished. I see this as a beginning, as a new phase in the relationship between India and the Philippines. And so, not so much a reset, but maybe a more dare I say it, aggressive approach to that relationship in every aspect that is possible. And we did a great deal of discussing about many subjects, and myself, my delegation now will come away with a much better idea of how to do work here in India, how to do work with India, what are the areas once again that we can further explore. So it's been a very good visit.
India and the Philippines face different but connected challenges in China. You in the high seas, India in the Himalayas. Do you think that's one factor that is bringing the two sides together?
Inevitably, it is, but we are forming here. That's one of the aspects of the new parts of the India-Philippines relationship, is this formation of a global coalition, really, of like-minded states. States that share our values, that share our adherence to international law. And in our cases, specifically, it's the UNCLOS, because it's the law of the sea, and that is where we are having problems. But essentially, the similarity between our situations is that it is a rejection of any unilateral attempt to change boundaries. It's really that simple. And that, again, requires no country can go against or can stand up by itself for a principle, and that's what we're standing up for. No one country can stand up for a principle. There has to be a coalition, and that coalition is being formed. And now, with the definition of the area of interest, if you want to call it that, it's no longer just the Asia-Pacific. We speak now of the Indo-Pacific, and quite rightly so, in my view. And that is another aspect to our relationship, which we did not have before. But I guess with the circumstances surrounding us in the global situation as it is, this is something that we have to stand together on. And that is what India, the Philippines, and many other countries are doing.
Did the China challenge come up in your conversation with the Indian leadership this time?
Yes, but very tangentially, because we are not here to bemoan whatever it is that China is doing, but really to again form that coalition. We are not against anyone. We are just for territory, the defense of our territory, the respect to the exercise of our sovereign rights.
For the moment, I want to talk about the BrahMos missiles. You were the first country that bought the BrahMos system from India. What's next? Is it fighter jets from India? Is it naval systems? Are more purchases on the cards?
Well, everything's on the table right now. As you may know, the Philippines is in the midst of a modernization of our military. And so we are looking to see what's the most suitable for our defensive needs. Let me be clear, though. We are not girding up for war. We are simply reacting to the challenges that we are facing. Those challenges, those tensions have increased in the past years. And so this is just the reaction to that. And we have to do it. It is our duty to defend the country. So in so doing, we have a schedule of procurement of military equipment. But then, equally importantly, is the exercises that we do together, the cross-training that we do together. When I left Manila a couple of days ago, 4 Indian vessels were actually in the South China Sea. One of them was a research vessel that was in Manila, that was in the Philippines, and 3 Indian vessels were conducting exercises with the Philippine Navy. So that kind of exercise is important. So again, to be able to be interoperable, in a purely technical sense, with our allies, then we have to upgrade our equipment to a standard that is interoperable. And that's what we are learning and what it is that we need. And so that's why we're not taking anything off the table. We're keeping all our options open. So that's where we stand right now. We're continuing to see I've spoken to the officers and men who operate the BrahMos system, and they say we need more. So their experience of it, thank God, it has never been used. But from the demonstrations that they've seen, from the training that they've received both in India and in the Philippines, the practice runs that they've done, they seem terribly confident in the equipment. And I think that we are in the process of actually procuring more. So again, whatever else, the Indian defense industry has been growing very rapidly, and their technology is second to none. So that's always an option for us.
Did you follow Operation Sindoor?
I'm sorry?
Operation Sindoor, the military
Yes. Well, they send me the reports. I'm unable to. They send me the reports, and again, this what it showed to me, what was made very clear is how complicated these things have to be. Apparently, just to send up a helicopter, takes like an hour of preparation. I mean, of radio contact and clearances and all this, that, and that thing. A week of planning. And so that just brings again home how important it is to train together, to conduct these exercises together. And beyond the technical expertise that we gain from such exercises, it is also important as it sends a message to the world that us, the like-minded states, are together and are working together. And we are here to maintain the peace, to maintain the stability in the global order, so as not to cause any problems for anyone, anywhere in the world. And that's a powerful message, and it needs to be said, it needs to be made. And this is part of the way we make that message known to the rest of the world.
Mr. President, India was involved in a military conflict with Pakistan for a few days earlier this summer, and the BrahMos missiles were used, and they evaded Chinese defense systems and struck Pakistani bases. Were you and your team impressed by their performance?
Oh yes, they immediately contacted their counterparts here in India and said what happened, and they're chatting and trying to really analyze how it went, what the changes in down to that level, what changes in procedure they think that they should initiate, all of this. But with the performance, there's no question that the system did very well.
So are you confident then that Indian systems and Indian weapons can not just stand up to but defeat Chinese weapons in an actual conflict?
Well, we don't look at it that way. We look at it if they are able to defend the Philippines, and I think they will. I think they're very good pieces of equipment. We have learned we have trained to be able to use them for maximum effect. Should the time come, God forbid, But as a missile system, they fill the bill, as it were.
Are there any particular weapon systems that you're now interested in beyond the BrahMos from India?
Maybe let me step away from that question, because these are operational details, and I'm very hesitant to talk about those things.
Sure. You're saying that you're ramping up and modernizing your country's defense forces, and 80% of weapons procurements are from the US, South Korea, and Israel. Do you think going forward, India could be a primary supplier of weapons to the Hill?
I have no doubt. I have no doubt that we. Well, it's like any market. The quality and the price are the determinant factors. And I said again, Indian equipment has that quality, and you are very competitive on pricing. So, and then it's not just, it's not like you're buying something off a shelf. Yeah. It's an entire financial package that you talk about, and that has political and strategic repercussions. So those are all part of the equation. But again, that by no means does that disqualify anything that's coming from India.
Right. You mentioned the joint naval drills, the first of its kind between India and the Philippines in the South China Sea, parts of which are contested. Would you like to see India as a regular maritime presence in the region, like the US or China or Japan?
In my view, in the past year, shall we say, India has been a very significant and almost constant presence in the South China Sea. It is actually quite easily discernible, the ramping up of involvement of India in my part of the world. And it's a good thing, as I said, because it has to be, it shows to the world that we are very concerned about the peace, the security, the stability of the South China Sea, not only for ourselves, but also because the South China Sea, about 60% of world commerce goes through there. And so if there is any trouble, that will affect the commerce in the rest of in the whole world. And so this is certainly one thing that we are all hoping to avoid. And so that is why these exercises are important in that regard, in that they are, again, a show how strongly we intend to defend our position, and it shows that how closely we are working together to defend peace and to defend stability.
China is not impressed with this drill. They say that this is going to undermine regional stability, and they fear that they were a target, if not the target, of this joint drill. Is that assessment correct in Beijing?
No. The narrative coming out of Beijing when it comes to the Philippines is always to imply that we are acting for other countries. And in this case with India, say that we are trying to leverage our alliances with larger, more powerful countries to cause instability. But that's certainly not the case. That would imply the subtext to that was that we do not have our own agency, that we are just bystanders that being told what to do. And that certainly is not the case. What we do in the Philippines is because it is our duty as officials, as leaders, as the military, as citizens, to defend our country. And so that is what we are doing. Now, friends like India, friends like the United States, like Australia, like South Korea, like Japan, who are also feeling that they must defend their own territory and sovereignty, should join forces, are joining forces. And who are we to turn down such assistance and such help? And we are, of course, ourselves very willing to also assist those partners, our partners around the world. And so this is, it's not quite the right analysis of what the Philippines is doing or what the Philippines' foreign policy is. It just, I suppose, serves that, that narrative that it is really that we are acting as a, I don't know, as a puppet state to the United States and to all the allies of the United States. I have to, this, I think it doesn't take very much reading and discussing to see very, very clearly, very, very quickly that that's simply not true.
There have been multiple close shaves between Chinese and Filipino vessels in recent past, with the Chinese ships also firing water cannons at Filipino ships. Are you worried that this may escalate into a full-blown crisis, that a small misunderstanding may blow up into something much bigger?
That is precisely what we are worried about. The likelihood of a full-blown out war of one side or the other saying, okay, I'm going to war tomorrow, is very, very small. No one, I don't think, no one involved, any of these parties that we just spoke about, no one wants to go to war. However, and this is again, that's what I said, that's why it's so important for us to be interoperable with our allies, is you can make a mistake. Some guy pushes the wrong button. You know, the navigation goes wrong, and a mistake, a misunderstanding and a mistake. And that could just blow out of proportion. People start to overreact, and before you know it, it's a shooting war, and that is what we want to avoid. So a very important part of avoiding that is, well, as I mentioned, very, very good communications within our alliances, but also very good communications, open communication lines with everyone involved. So that if there is a problem, if there is a report, for example, that our troops are shooting at one another, that you can pick up the phone and say, I am about to tell my people to back down. Please tell yours to back down. We don't want this. This is just a misunderstanding. So we keep that. We must have that line open. We have to have that hotline. And we do. And we maintain it, and we make sure that it is useful. So it's not like the classic concept of actual telephone, but we have we have regular discussions, regular meetings at the ministerial, the sub-ministerial level, just to keep things manageable. I don't know that the problem will go away, but to keep it at a level where somehow it is still manageable. I don't know if we're at that level. I'd like to bring the tension down. I'd love to cool the rhetoric a little bit. But you know, people see. Certainly in the Philippines, people feel strongly about it, and they make their feelings known.
I'm sure they do. Your recent State of the Nation address is coming under a lot of scrutiny. In last year's speech, you promised to not yield even an inch of Philippine land in disputed areas. This year, your statement did not make an explicit mention of that, of the West Philippine Sea, but you focused more on non-alignment on Manila's part. Would you say you watered down your statement? Did you, and why?
No, I did not. You're the second person to ask me that. But the two things are not mutually exclusive. You can defend your sovereignty, you can defend your territory, you can do all of that, you can modernize your military, and at the same time, you can continue to be a friend to all and an enemy of none. So that there is no misunderstanding. Let me say it again: the Philippines will not cede 1 square inch of our territory. We will not give up the exercise of our sovereign rights, ever. I hope that's clear.
Absolutely. I think this is a clear message to your critics and to your followers, who I'm sure are relieved to hear this. You're a treaty ally of the United States, and an important part of that treaty is mutual defense. You were also in Washington recently, and you had a conversation with the new president, Donald Trump. Are you convinced that if the Philippines faced a security challenge, the US under Mr. Trump would come to your defense?
I am. Because the assurances that we have been receiving in those terms from the new administration before I went there, and when I went there, and since that visit, I've been very, very strong from the Secretary of State, from the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State Mark Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and all the other officials, that the policy on the Philippines does not change, and that we use the term, we refer to the term ironclad, and we have to remember, as I mentioned when I was in Washington, that the term ironclad, as it relates to the relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines, was actually coined by Mr. Trump in his first term, and when he was asked about the Philippines. And I sincerely believe that is constant, that has remained constant. And I'm not surprised, because we really have had a very, very long history together with the United States. It's been over 100 years in various forms. We're a member of the American Commonwealth. We've given liberation, still for a very, very long time we had parity rights with American citizens. So it really is a very, very strong relationship. It really, and as I was explaining to President Trump, I said, if you stop a school child in the street in the Philippines and ask them who is our best ally, they will say the United States. And that institutional, that cultural, not institutional, that cultural memory maintains. And I think that too is, that there is an aspect of that as well in the United States for the Philippines. We do have over 2 million Filipinos in the United States. So we are also very much woven into the fabric of their society. In a good way. It is, but and it again it has been a very long and very good relationship, and I think it will remain so. I'm sure it will remain so.
I'm not sure how many old allies of the U.S. are in a position to say that, but again, like I said, it's good to see your optimism.
Well, I wouldn't hazard a guess, but I'm only expert in the Philippines situation.
Fair enough. Another flashpoint in the neighborhood is Taiwan, and
Yes.
most experts fear that Beijing will invade Taiwan before the end of this decade. If that were to happen while you're still in power, would you be open to allowing the U.S. Use resources and bases in the Philippines to defend Taiwan, or would you rather stay out of it?
To be very practical about it, if there is a confrontation over Taiwan between China and the United States, there is no way that the Philippines can stay out of it, simply because of our physical geographic location. To understand how close Taiwan is to the Philippines, the large city of Kaohsiung in Taiwan is a 40-minute flight away from the capital of my province in northern Philippines, in Lawag. That's how close it is. And so if you think about it, if there is an all-out war, then we will be drawn into it. And I assure you, with the greatest hesitation, but we will have to defend our territory and our sovereignty. Furthermore, there are many, many Filipino nationals in Taiwan, and that would be immediately a humanitarian problem, because we will have to get involved, because we will have to go in there, or find a way to go in there and to bring our people home, as we do whenever they find themselves in areas of conflict. And that, for me, would be the most considerable concern for us, at least in the early days. And so that's why I say it would. We would immediately mobilize everything that we could to bring our people out, and that's not an easy thing to do, considering that you are in the middle of a combat zone. So it would not be a small problem by any means.
You mentioned the Indo-Pacific a short while back. Considering the evolving security situation, a lot of experts have said that we need something like an Asian NATO. I know that the Quad has often been called an Asian NATO, but we are far from a mutual security umbrella in the Quad. Do you think that having a grouping like that is going to help, or will it exacerbate the tensions? And if we were to have such a group, who would you see as part of it?
Asian NATO?
Yes.
Well, you know, the origins of ASEAN have to do with something like that. After the establishment of NATO in Europe, there was an attempt by the Americans to establish SEATO. It existed for a while, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, very, very similar to NATO. But most of the leaders in Southeast Asia thought that they could do a better job by themselves. Led by, I remember very well because I was still in school, but I remember the discussion, led by my father and then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. And then slowly Malaysia came to join, other countries came to join, and that's how ASEAN was born. ASEAN was born in the Singapore, I remember. So this is for us, that serves that purpose. That serves the purpose for that aggregation. However, since we now define the region that needs to work together as Indo-Pacific, then ASEAN may be no longer enough. Maybe there has to be more. But even if you watch ASEAN has involved more and more countries every time that we have our summits. And we have ASEAN, we have the ASEAN, we have the APEC, we have the ASEAN Plus, we have the ASEAN Plus Gulf countries, we have the ASEAN Plus China. And so it's evolving that way, and it's evolving. So although they are not members, and we just we're about to welcome Timor-Leste as a full member from observer status. But although they're not members, they're very, very much part of the discussion now. And I think that's absolutely the right way, the right direction to go, because these forces of instability that we have just been suffering. Number one, we still are, for all intents and purposes, still suffering some of the ravages of COVID. So there is that. So and then the wars all around the world, and then now the impending trade war. These are all global instabilities. These are all hugely global forces, and therefore needs a global solution, which cannot again be provided by one country or even a small group of countries. It has to be brought. That stability can only be defended by a coalition, again, of states, of like-minded communities that are working together to maintain the peace.
Right. The trade war is making a lot of headlines in India. Donald Trump's tariffs have triggered a strong backlash here. Did any of that come up in your conversations with the Indian leadership on the trade churn?
The backlash to
the 25% tariffs that Washington has imposed on us and the threat of secondary tariffs?
Well, our situation was a little different. We started off at 17%, and then about a week before we went to Washington, it became 20. And so we went and we tried to negotiate, and we managed to claw back 1%. But that's where it stands right now, and it's just something that we will have to adjust to. And the effects, certainly, the effects on our economies are all about the same. The United States is a very large trading partner of the Philippines in terms of the Philippine imports and exports. And so there will be an effect. And I've asked all our best economists to model it, and to see, give me some kind of idea what the effect will be. Before we went to the United States, they said, what each percent that we can win back from that 20, what will be the effect to the economy in terms of growth, in terms of inflation, in terms of job creation, all the usual economic tests. And no one can quite quantify it. They say, well, it'll go in this direction, it'll go in that direction, but you cannot. This has never happened before.
Yeah.
So the entire world economy is going to have to readjust itself, reinvent itself in many ways. Because even just as a thought experiment, if everything went back to what it was before the tariff schedules were set by the United States, the world economies are not going back to where they were. We will have adjusted now to a different place. Now, where is that place? And that's what all of us leaders are trying to determine. What is the best place to take our country so that we are positioned to be able to be resilient in the face of any such, well, now we're talking in the face of war, in the face of a pandemic, in the face of trade war, all of this. And that, again, that is why these coalitions that I keep talking about are very, very important. When it comes to the economy, uncertainty is the worst enemy. I would rather, as an economist or even as a businessman, you tell me that business is going to be bad for the next year, I can plan. But if you tell me I don't know what's going to happen, what do I do then? And the tendency is to play it safe, to watch and wait. And that's more or less what's happening.
So what's your advice to countries that are still hoping to get a deal with the U.S.?
The best advice, the best advice I got was negotiate hard, but just do your best. Mm-hmm. Just do your best. Be smart about it. I guess it brings us back to that lesson we learned from pandemic, the lesson we learned from trade war, the lesson we learned from the war. We now need to be agile. Our economies need to be agile. We need to be able to adjust very quickly. That action came about because of technology moving so quickly. But now it also applies with geopolitics moving so quickly, with the trade structure moving so quickly. And so that's how we are structuring our economies to be strong, robust, but agile. And it seems to be the most important quality right now.
There's the BRICS group
Yes.
that the U.S. president is not a fan of, evidently, but it is expanding, and now it has 10 members. And earlier this year, a senator in the Philippines said that Manila should join the BRICS. Would you want to join the BRICS?
I think I'd certainly be open to it. I haven't given it a lot of thought. We'd have to certainly we'll look into it, but it provides us more options. It would help to provide more options. Maybe it's something that we don't necessarily are looking for right now, but I don't know. We've not really thought about it. We've been too concerned looking internally how to make the economy work, how to bring growth, how to create jobs and all that. So, well, it's a thought. Now that you mention it, we'll have a discussion about it.
And I'll come back to you with the same question in the next conversation, maybe. As we speak, India and China are also working to take their relationship to a more, workable dynamic. We are giving tourist visas. Joint ventures are being cleared between companies. As a country that faces similar challenges vis-a-vis China, do you think this is the right approach? What would your advice to New Delhi be? Can China still be trusted, or do we still have to work with them irrespective?
Well, China can be trusted in the sense that it's very clear. China is not shy about saying that what they are intending to do, what are their aspirations. And so they can be trusted in that sense. They can certainly be trusted because they will work for that direction, in that direction. But for the Philippines, for example, to use our own experience, our experience has been that this is not something that's going to go away tomorrow, and it's very, very problematic. But I think India and the Philippines have approached it in a similar way. Aside from the 10-dash line of China and how it actually comes into the EEZ of the Philippines and all, apart from that, our dealings with China are quite nice, quite smooth. But that's that part of it. And India, I think, is doing the same thing. Because your business, the commercial dealings, the import-export that's coming, the trade that's going in and out of China, is still continuing, except for the area where there is conflict. And what I always tell my Chinese friends is that let us not allow that part to define our relationship. We should define our relationship in other things, our cultural ties, our social ties, our economic ties, our historical ties, etc., etc. Then, unfortunately, modern world has brought us here, and there is this now. We will just have to deal with it. But again, I've been saying this for years. Let us not allow what the difficult part of our relationship to color or to define what the rest of us are doing together. That is advantageous to both our countries, and it's working relatively well.
Right. I have to ask you about Gaza. You are an ally. Philippines is an ally of Israel, but you've also voted for a ceasefire at the United Nations.
Yes.
The situation is deteriorating. There is talk of starvation in Gaza. Do you think the world is doing enough to stop Israel? Do you believe Israel is starving Gazans on purpose?
I think the world is doing what it can. At least certainly the European countries with the now the threat of first the UK and then some other EU countries to recognize a Palestinian state within the year. I believe during the General Assembly of the United Nations, I think is the intended schedule. So these are the forces that it can bring to bear on Israel, because I think I don't know what they say in Israel, but everywhere else I think it is unanimous that the humanitarian cost of the continued attacks on Gaza is unacceptable. The death, the destruction, and now the starvation that is occurring there they should not be happening in this day and age. We should not allow this. But what can one do? Unless we go in there and forcibly, nobody wants to do that either. So it is a very, very difficult situation. And it is really, I was watching the news earlier, and President Trump said it's up to Israel. And yes, he's right. It's up to Israel. Israel has to decide to allow humanitarian aid to come in. It has to be them to decide. We can put pressure on them. We can, have resolutions in the United Nations. But at the end, the Israeli leadership has to decide that okay, enough humanitarian costs. We will do something else. Unfortunately, the trend doesn't seem to be headed in that direction, with the promotion, or rather the proposal to occupy the entire of Gaza. So it's a terrible situation, and we look on in horror at the death, the destruction, the suffering. But what always brings tears to my eyes are the children. Why the children? It's impossible. At least an adult, you can say we're at war, so we have to sacrifice. How do you explain that to a child? And that's not fair. That's not right.
If I may add, and I know why you wouldn't say it, but it's not up to Israel. I think in the past, when excesses have been committed, there has been intervention from the West, overriding a sovereign states. So if required, or if there was the political will, then I'm sure more could have been done to stop the Israeli establishment.
But I think all the pressure that can be brought to bear on Israel is being done. Is being brought again. Maybe the United States could exercise a stronger hand in influencing the Israeli leadership to recognize the humanitarian cost. But again, at the end of the day, well, if the United States stops sending weapons, then perhaps then that will be a big diminution in terms of attacks. But short of that, I can see the frustration of the European countries. That's why they're starting to talk about recognizing a Palestinian state. Certainly, from the part of the Philippines. Again, of course, we are your allies, but we cannot, we do not, we are always for peace. Even our own situation with the West Philippine Sea, which is South China Sea, we don't talk about the forces against this and attacking that. We talk about peace, and that's what we push. And that is the same attitude that we take in the war in Ukraine. Yeah. Is that we are allies to both Ukraine and Russia. But we really would wish the fighting would stop, because again, when you watch the videos that are coming out of Ukraine, it looks like World War II. And I thought, this is 2025. I thought humanity had learned its lesson already. Unfortunately, I was wrong.
Yes. In a lot of ways, the position is very similar to that of India's. Mm-hmm. I believe we have very little time left, but like I said, that Philippines is a big country for us for First Post. I mean, we have a relationship of third biggest in terms of viewership and subscription after India and the US. Yeah. So for the domestic audience, if I could ask you about your relationship with the Vice President, Sara Duterte. I know you've refused to comment on the impeachment process, so let me ask you point blank, do you support the removal?
I've not refused to comment on the impeachment process. I've just said, I've made it very clear that the executive, the President, has very little role to play in that process. So we are of course very interested parties, very interested observers, but it doesn't go beyond that. Well, I think that the political heat, all the noise is toned down. And we are, because that was on the build-up to the last election in May. That was what we call the midterm elections. You say the president and the vice president are not candidates because we have a 6-year term. Everyone else, more or less, has a 3-year term. The senators, 12-12, that's how we elect them. So it was a build-up to the elections. So the political heat, the political noise, the political rhetoric, of course, rose accordingly. But the election is done. It was conducted very well. There was no, of course, there were still problems, but as a rule, I would venture to say that it was the most peaceful, most transparent election we've had in recent history, in my memory, anyway. And so, so now, since then, since everything has been decided, the electoral protests, for the most part, have been decided, and so peace once again reigns.
The charge against her to hatch an assassination plot, you worked with her. Do you think she's capable of something like that? Oh.
I don't know. But I'm really not in a position to say what that's about. But you have to be careful. Yeah. But then in my position, there always is some kind of threat, and we take them all very seriously.
Very well put. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your time and for your candor. You've taken all the questions, and you said that we are in an age of uncertainty. So I think at this stage, I think the world needs leaders who can balance allies, adversaries, and domestic expectations, leaders like you. Thank you very much for your time.
I fully agree with you. Thank you very much.